Hello and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of us have been through, which is when you are living in a share house and your room is really like your only true sanctuary or escape or place that you can fully express yourself and your interior design style. I think often when we live with housemates, everyone's got a different style, a different taste, or you might be living with someone who owns the apartment and they are the ones dictating the interior design for every other room in the house. And maybe that doesn't reflect your style. And I've been in that situation, and in that instance, all you really have to cling to is your bedroom. And I want to give you some tips on how you can really maximize the space, both functionally and also so that it is really like a reflection of your aesthetic, your vibe, how you want to feel in the house, regardless of what's going on outside of your bedroom door. And with that being said, let's get into the first tip, which is to define what your bedroom means to you. I'll take you through the process of kind of what I did when I was living in that situation. I was living with a girl who owned the apartment, and she didn't really have like a bad interior design aesthetic, but she kind of made it clear that she just wanted her furniture and her kind of aesthetic in the rest of the house, which I can respect. Like if you have just bought your first apartment, that's kind of, I get it. But I guess that means I had free will to do what I wanted in the bedroom that I was in. And I'm going to take you through the steps of what I did and kind of how I fleshed out that space so that I could kind of have that piece of me within the greater apartment. So the first thing that you need to do is actually establish how you want that space to feel. Like, what does a sanctuary mean to you in terms of your bedroom, and especially when living with other people? Like, how do you want that space to feel? How do you want it to be a reflection of yourself? What do you want it to represent? So I'd probably lean into more of the things like what is going to make you feel relaxed and comfortable and safe in that space. Like, is it neutral finishes? Do you like a lot of eclectic things, a lot of art, a lot of color? Or do you just really want it to be a place where you can just zone out, feel really zen, and just not necessarily need to have like overstimulation in the space? Obviously it's going to be different for everyone. Maybe you're more drawn to like natural elements, or you really want to incorporate the outside in. Maybe you need the space to be super functional. Maybe you like work from your room, and so you need to take that into consideration. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be different for everyone, but that is the first starting point of like, what do I want this space to feel like? How do I want it to function? How do I want to feel in the space when I just need a break from everything else that's going on outside of the room? Once you've sort of established the feel, the next step is to kind of zone it out. So like break the room up into different zones that are going to host areas for different activities. So maybe you've got like a reading area, if that's something that you're into. You have like a chair that's specifically for just reading, zoning out, scrolling on your phone. Or maybe you have an area that's for work. You have a desk work area, which needs to be sort of allocated for. And then obviously you've got the main things like your bed. You might have a built-in wardrobe, or you might need to again make some considerations for that so that you can have a space for your clothes and items and things. But just looking at the space that you're currently in or that you're going to be moving into and thinking about, okay, what are the actual functional things I need in the space and how can I kind of block these areas out? So if you think of like a floor plan, even if you just like draw a rectangle of your room and then you start in like different colors, just putting colored blocks for where you think things need to go, like thinking about association and distance. So maybe you don't necessarily want to have your desk and work zone super close to your bed because you kind of want to separate those as much as possible. Maybe you do want to have like the reading nook close to the bed area, or maybe you want it to be next to like a credenza or a sideboard where you can put candles and incense and things to really emphasize and add to that experience. And then obviously the other thing you can do to help zone out spaces is to think of incorporating rugs and floor finishes or wall finishes to physically and visually zone out these areas. From here, we want to also remember that it's not just about the visual, like we want to have a sensory experience within our room. So thinking about sound and smell and sight and feel and like tactility are really important in that space because it's going to engage all of the senses and it's just going to amplify the atmosphere and the environment in a way that's going to make it way more desirable to be in there. So a way that we can do this, for example, if you're looking at like the tactile sensory experience, that would be things like using textural materials, different variations of materials, whether that's on your bedding, on your rug, if you have textural elements on the wall, different upholstery options. window furnishings. It's all those kind of really tactile elements that you're actually physically going to be having that touch sensation to, that we want to kind of layer and mix up based on your sensory preferences. If it's smell that you want, maybe you like to have quite strong smells in your room, or you want it sort of more subdued, you can incorporate things like candles, oil burners, incense, what is it called? Oh my God, I just had a mind blank. Am I right? Incense sticks to give your room that, I was gonna say oral, what is it? Like nasal sensory experience, or diffusers or things like that. Anything that is going to add that, again, element of sensory experience through smell. Actually, sound experience. So you want to create like a soundscape in your room, which can obviously be done by just like a really good Spotify playlist. And I like to kind of think of these things all being intertwined. So let's say you have a really good Spotify playlist with music, you have a really nice gentle scent in the air, you have textural elements around you, really great lighting, which again is so key, especially in a smaller space where you're really working with limitations. All of these things work together and intertwine to create a really beautiful and desirable interior experience, which is what we want for your space when you're living with other housemates. And then I guess like going back to the main one is the visual elements of the room, which are obviously the first thing that you kind of see and that you're drawn to in the space. And this again is going to work with all those other sensory elements to bring that space together. So I'm talking about things like incorporating art into your space, things that have interest like homewares, maybe some interesting window furnishings if you're able to do that, if you're renting. That could be blinds, curtains, Venetians, anything that you can kind of that's renter friendly that you can add into the space. Again, renter friendly things, you could do peel and stick wallpaper if you're into that sort of thing. You can do wall decals, even just hanging sort of like textural elements on the wall, like tapestries or a rug that has an interesting print on it, just to add, again, another layer of depth and another element to the space that's not just like flat paint. If you're able to, again, you can also paint the ceiling if you want to add like a pop of color or something just a little bit more diverse and interesting to break up the space. But I think one of the biggest things is having elements that are really a reflection of you. So having art pieces and photographs, and like even if it's sculptures, it doesn't have to be art specifically, but even something that someone has made for you or gifted to you, having those elements to really just add that personal touch and sense of depth to a space. But avoiding clutter. So we don't want to just have everything that we have on display. We do still want to have like sufficient storage solutions, which could be storage under your bed, storage up in, if you have a cupboard, up the top of the wardrobe, just really finding ways to put away the stuff that we don't need to be seeing on a daily basis that's just going to create that visual clutter. I'm more talking about personalization and bringing your own like interior design flair with the elements that you have into your bedroom. And then lighting. So I know I kind of touched on it before, but lighting is such a powerful way to change the mood in your space. So, you know, obviously it's a very functional thing. Like if we're working in the space, we want to be able to have it sort of lit up in a way that our eyes are not going to get strained. We're going to have enough light to do work or whatever it is that we're doing. But then maybe like in the evenings or early mornings, you just want to have a more dim sense of lighting that's really calming. It's not going to be overstimulating. And that can be incorporated through installing dimmers, but also having different light sources. So not just relying on the lights overhead, but also having smaller lighting integrations. So whether that's just like table lamps, you might have a floor lamp, having them at different heights and really understanding how the different light levels, both in dimming and physical height, like location of the light, is going to give you different outcomes. We want to be working with warm toned LED light bulbs. We don't really want to go for the cool tone unless that's specifically something that you want. And then one step further, if you really want to make it like an oasis, you can install the red light bulbs for nighttime. If you really want to bring it down, make it feel really calm and back to nature, so to speak. Not something that I personally do, but I do know that there have been people that have said that it's like actually quite good for relaxation at night and just not having, you know, artificial light on all the time. Definitely don't like fairy lights, so I'm sorry if you have that, but it just reminds me of like a uni student's bedroom, and I've never liked them. Like I actually like how they make a room feel, but I really hate the look of them, especially when they're not on during the day and it's just this like cord of crap everywhere. So I'm going to say don't do that. Just stick to more traditional lighting sources like lamps and things like that. It's just working on building those layers of soft ambient light to create the mood that you're after in your bedroom / sanctuary. So those are all the tips that I have. And if you were in this situation, I just want to say good on you. I know it can be really hard with interiors. Even when you're living with a partner who has different style, it can make it stressful because, you know, the home is a place that we want to feel like we belong, that we can unwind in, that is a reflection of ourselves. But like most things in life, we do need to compromise. And I hope these tips have been helpful for you. So first thing, establish what you want the sanctuary to feel like. What do you want it to represent? How do you want it to be a reflection of yourself? Own it out. So think about the things in the space that you need to incorporate that are kind of like non-negotiables. So maybe you need to work from your room. You want to have like an area where you can do stretching or like home workouts. If that is something that you do, definitely a bed and like winding down area or a reading nook. And then also storage for, you know, clothes and shoes and things that you need to keep in your room. Think about the sensory elements of your space, not just how it looks, but how you can create a mood and an atmosphere and a feeling through different sensory elements. So through sight, through smell, through sound, through tactility and touch. And they're really just going to make your space much more considered, much more enjoyable to be in. Adding personalization and your own touch of your experiences and your stories and things that have been gifted to you are your personal curation of items without making it feel super cluttered to really create a sense of personalization in the space. And then lastly, lighting to create different moods and levels and layers of ambience, I never know how to say that word, is really going to help you in, again, working with that sensory element and just creating different environments within the one space. Because really that's what we're doing when we're in our bedroom. Like, you know, these days it's not just one room for sleep. Obviously that would be ideal, but for a lot of us, we use our rooms for multifunctional purposes. As I said, we use it for sleep, we use it for winding down and reading, we use it for exercise, for work, for filming TikToks and YouTube videos like I'm doing right now. So it's not a one layered space, it's multi-dimensional, and we need to work with those limitations, restrictions, functional requirements. Good luck. Let me know if you've like been in this experience or are in this experience and you want any more tips or maybe something that I haven't touched on that you think could help other people. Yeah, I mean, I feel for you and I understand, and I've been in that position and it kind of sucks, but also got to work with what we've got. So I hope that has been helpful. If you like this video, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and to give it a thumbs up because I upload new videos every week. And you can follow me on Instagram at Hannah_____what. Worst handle I know, but anyway. Also, I'm now going to be taking on work outside of my current projects that I have going on. So if you're needing some help just with interior design in general, maybe you have one room that you want some help with, I'm going to link in the description box down below a link to my website which has packages that you can purchase, and they're kind of different levels, different tiers of things that you get in each package. If you have any questions, obviously you can email me, which is also in the description box below. But that's really all I've got to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.